Welcome to another episode of Strategic Minds Making Money Moves, where we give those strategies do what? To make that green rain. I am so honored to have Miss Monica McCoy with us here, and I am so excited to hear about her business and the opportunities. Welcome, Monica.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure and honor.
Would you please share with our audience a little bit about your business?
Yes, so as Vicki stated, my name is Monica McCoy, and I'm the founder of Monica Motivates, an organization that helps women and underrepresented founders learn how to gain access to capital, opportunity, and strategic partnerships. Because we know that only 0.2% of venture capital funding goes to African American female founders, and our business is here to close that funding gap and make sure that we're making the global ecosystem equitable.
Fantastic, fantastic. Let me ask you a question. On the VC, that venture capitalist money that's out there, do they fund services as well as products for organizations? Organizations that give service versus organizations that give products?
Yeah, so it's much easier if you have a product-based organization, but certainly for those of you who have a service-based organization, you want to have a technology solution behind it also. So they call this a SaaS solution, where you bring in a technological component so that it's something that can continue to scale, whether you and your team are there to do the day-to-day operations or not. So certainly I do suggest that if you are a service-based entrepreneur, that you bring that technological solution and integrate that into your long-term business planning cycle.
Thank you so much for that. I know there's lots of questions about getting money, right? People can get their head around capital when it comes to a physical thing. It's much harder to talk about, can I get funding or get money, to help me when I'm doing a service from that perspective. So thanks so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
Sounds like you have a phenomenal business and things are going extremely well.
I am very grateful. Very grateful.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Would you share with our audience today what you would like to discuss?
Yes, I'm so honored to be here with Vicki today because one of the things that I want to discuss is that as we are scaling, we are both expanding here in the United States, but we are also looking to expand globally. So we're really looking to build additional global partnerships. And so Vicki, as you're building and really growing that business in a very strategic way, just making sure that you're very careful about expanding globally also.
Well, I think there's a couple of components that we have to think about. So let's take it one step at a time. First of all, we have to know exactly, is it all services you want to do globally? Is it a portion of your services you want to do globally? So understand what that mix is. What is it for you?
It's a portion. Okay. So we are really looking to focus more on the supplier diversity offerings that we do as we expand globally, and also with some of our internal corporate training from a internal executive leadership training perspective.
Okay. So what that means is with those two pillars that you have and you're thinking about going global, the first thing, I know what my products are. Now I need to know who my audience is, right, of who it is that I'm actually targeting. And if you're targeting those companies for supplier diversity, and they happen to be, the same kind of constituents that you can offer these leadership programs to, that's great. But then where do I want to start? Because every country is different. Every culture is different. So mapping out how can we best adapt to what's expected in one culture versus another in terms of the country, because they have different rules, right? Everybody doesn't work like the United States.
Absolutely.
Everybody doesn't have opportunities like the United States. And that also means you may be marketing differently, right? So if I'm going to market to a Caribbean location, may be very different than how I market to a US location. So as you begin to think about this, I think there's 4 quadrants that you need to always keep in mind when you're doing globally. And a lot of this is going to sound like, oh my gosh, well, this is the same thing I did locally. But you have to make sure that we take that lens of a global lens. First, from a financial perspective, what is the conversion rates of what you're going to be asking and what you're going to be receiving? What does that conversion rate look like financially? Because that's going to help you set some of your rate cards in terms of your products and what you're going to offer, right? Yes. So let's understand what that conversion rate looks like. Secondly, When it comes to looking at your financials, what is happening with the competitors that are already there? You know, that competitive analysis for each one of these locations you want to go to, what are the analytics telling you? And can you get specific analytics in specific areas? And as you are crawling before you walk and walk before you run, as you're looking at certain locations, and then grow organically to the next global location and sustain where you are in the US, it is important that you begin to look at what that mix is going to look like for each one of those countries from a competitive landscape, right? As we begin to talk about competition. The second one that becomes really important are your process and systems you're going to use globally.
Yes.
Do you have the right infrastructure to support it? Do we need other software? Do we need other hardware? Do we need other kinds of infrastructure in order to support those things and making it happen? What does that look like? And how do we get that infrastructure in place? And if we don't have it, who might I partner with that's already established over there that I can get it, but can also help me get a road into the audience that I am trying to target, right?
Yes, that's great.
As I'm trying to move forward. So process and infrastructure becomes important. Third piece, how is the work going to get done? We know people do the work, right? It's all about our talent, all about our resource. What is your talent strategy? What does that look like? And how are you looking to fill these roles, simply because we know there's time difference, right? In different countries, and are we going to recruit and have just a group of people that work in that country? Are we going to do a hybrid model? Are we looking at something that we're offering? Oh, we're going to be a competitive advantage. We're going to be 24/7, right? We can offer certain things that other organizations can't offer because we do have the United States and the other cultures. What does that look like? And what kind of skill sets do I need to do that? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about skill sets as we continue to talk, because I think that there are components of that get missed when we really begin to think globally. And it comes from a lot of exposure when you begin to get exposed to international locations. So we're going to take a station break, and when we come back, we're going to finish the conversation. We'll be right back.
Strategic Minds, Making Money Moves with Vicki Wright Hamilton focuses on helping entrepreneurs to overcome their business challenges to help increase their bottom line. Each episode provides strategies for growth and transformation. Watch Vicki share her 20-plus years of experience as a corporate executive to help entrepreneurs level up.
Welcome back. I want to talk a little bit about those competencies. When we think about international, and I used to be over an international location. What we looked at in the U.S. for skill sets, for example, in technology, versus the slant of what they wanted in that country for the same name were different. They were not the same. So we need to make sure that our interviewing processes, whomever we're going to interview with, whomever is going to conduct this, understands the differences, the language differences, especially when it's multilingual, right? You also have to determine, am I going to have to get language interpreters, right? Am I going to have language interpreters so that someone in this country can speak to someone here? Now, it is true a lot of our countries have a lot of English, but not everybody is English speaking, right? And so we need to understand what that mix looks like. We need to also understand that our internal talent has some of those language competencies so that they can have conversations, as well as we're talking about what we want to do from a leadership level and a strategic level. So people are important. And the last thing, as we do in any company, is I think we have to think about all of our different kinds of stakeholders, right? And their pain points, what we're solving for those stakeholders, and also understand that the stakeholders are not just the business people that are receiving your services. Your stakeholders are also your employees. You know why? Because there's a wonderful thing called the internet. and feedback goes viral, right? And when people don't like it, it spreads like wildfire.
It certainly does.
Right? And so we have to remember our stakeholders are part of our teams. Our stakeholders are part of the people. It's not just the customers we serve. It's not just the shareholders. It's not just the constituents, that are associated with it. It's also our team.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
And how we build that. And then our participation in associations, our participation in how we, the things that we go and speak about, and things that we participate in as well. So I would really encourage you to look at that entire strategy as you're beginning to think about global, to understand what makes sense.
And I love this because this is an omni-channel strategy that you just presented, where you're looking at it from a very holistic perspective and really not only just understanding your stakeholders, but also making sure that you understand what are some of those cultural differences. So this is so greatly appreciated because we're strategically targeting a country that is primarily English speaking for our first country that we go to.
Good.
But certainly what I really like about some of this poignant, great advice that you've just given me is to really make sure that I'm doing a lot of my research on the front end before we move too fast and then get into like, oh my gosh, we should have really known some of this ahead of time. So,
Exactly.
So thank you.
Exactly. No problem. No problem. And I think that as you're doing that research and you're looking at those companies, go look at what customers are saying about them. Right? And go look at what's happening over there, because a lot of times we can draw so much from data.
Yes.
Data is king. Data is what gives us our analytics. And we can slice and dice data and get it in a lot of different ways, which is why sometimes as entrepreneurs, and we don't think about this as much, not everybody, why we need to have technology do a lot of our data gathering for us so we can respond with speed, right?
No, I think that's
In terms of being able to do that. Do you use anything today?
Yeah, we're very very strategic about making sure that we look at our annual business plan from a 1-year perspective, that we look at our strategic business plan from a 3-year perspective, and also that our team meets on a quarterly basis to review how is the past quarter performance. So we really do treat ourselves like a Fortune 500 company as we're running our business, because at the end of the day, what I do know is that if we are going to eventually be a publicly traded company, we must act like we're one right now, ahead of getting to that space. And so that's why it's so critical with me having this conversation with you today, Vicki, because as we're looking at going globally, of course, the laws going globally versus the laws here in the United States are very different. And what does that look like as we look at our long-term plan of eventually going public? And so literally, I always say to myself, make sure that you're a sponge, because these lessons that I'm learning from you today, Vicki, are going to be critical as we're looking at our long-term success plan for making sure that we're set up to avoid some of those pitfalls as we eventually get to a place of being able to take our company public.
Well, I really appreciate that. I would just want to pour out whatever experiences that I have and strategies that I've used in the past and have actually been a part of, when I was working on the other side of the table, and doing these things globally as we move forward. I think it's also important that you have a good international finance person. Because a CFO over here is not a CFO over there.
Absolutely.
And because of the different tax laws and regulations, that goes to lawyers too, right? Who's ever going to be your CPA, your corporate law, all of that. And now you're starting to talk about bigger and larger considerations, right? And that's why when we begin to think about where we want to grow becomes so important.
Absolutely.
I was talking to another organization, and one of the things that they wanted to focus on was growing in the U.S.
Yes.
But they wanted to have a little bit of an international flair. Well, St. Thomas is an island, right? But it's part of the continental United States, right? And it's part of us.
Right.
And they have laws and things that you have to get. So you could take baby steps as you're trying to do things to get there. So I'm glad you have a country that you're looking at that's English speaking. I think that's very, very important. But your skill sets, your teams, your approach of whom you're going after, the pre-research that you do from legal to finance to competition.
Yes.
All of that's going to set you apart and help you as you're doing that growth. In the location that you're looking to go to, do you happen to know if they have any professional organizations or services or anything like that that you could tap into ahead of time to learn a little bit about that country?
Yeah, so in all transparency, we're currently exploring the UK, and we currently have feet on the ground already over there. So we currently have a set of team members who've been working with us on various projects who are located in the UK, and we've partnered with a global agency to go ahead and help to start getting our message out in the UK. Because of course, being here in Atlanta, Georgia, it's very difficult to get the message through a lot of the competing priorities. So we're very happy to have someone that we're partnered with who already understands the landscape, already understands the culture, to make sure that we're setting ourselves up not just for just a short-term success, but really looking at this from a really long-term perspective, because we want to make sure that if we're going to make this strategic investment in the UK, that it is something that's setting us up for long-term success.
That's awesome. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to see if we have a question or a comment from the audience.
Strategic Minds, Making Money Moves with Vicki Wright Hamilton focuses on helping entrepreneurs to overcome their business challenges to help increase their bottom line. Each episode provides strategies for growth and transformation. Watch Vicki share her 20-plus years of experience as a corporate executive to help entrepreneurs level up.
Welcome back. I want to continue the conversation that you said that you have with a partner, because that you're halfway there when it comes to, having someone that's understanding the landscape. Have you all sat down and put a plan together with the partner? And are there pieces that you think that you need to augment with what your partner is doing?
Yeah, we have. So one of the things about this partner is that she's someone who I started off working with here in Atlanta, and she's a dual citizen of both the United States and the UK.
Smart.
And so because she has experience here in the United States and in the UK, it has been such a seamless partnership to bring this to life. So we've been working on this for about the past 4 years, and now taking those baby steps. And I always tell people, don't try to grow too fast. Take those baby steps. The overnight success for us is 4 years in the making to get to this. But certainly, yes, we've done our due diligence in that area.
So it seems like you have a great model you can follow. Right now, it's great that you had somebody here that was already there. And I think that, as you continue to expand, looking at those models that we talked about will allow you the opportunity to even make sure, okay, I dotted all the rest of the I's and crossed all the T's. But I think it's phenomenal that you're taking the expertise of someone who knows that country, and now it's going to be about the networking within that country, in terms of moving forward. And to say that it took 4 years, it's no joke.
Yeah.
When you're getting ready to do something like this, that process and time takes a lot to be able to get it done and move it forward. So congratulations on A, getting it started, B, on taking the time to get there, leveraging your network and the people you know in order to expand what you're doing. And I just encourage you to do some of those same kinds of strategic things we've been talking about and replicate it again as you want to continue to grow globally and make those things happen.
Thank you so much, Vicki.
No problem. Let's see if we have a question or a comment from the audience.
Hi, my name is Charlene Hendricks. I am founder and president of Amazing Works Incorporated. My question for you is, how do you pair companies that need funding with the venture capitalists?
So that's such a great question. And what I will say, when I first started the business, I was trying to pair everybody with everyone. And so it was just my eagerness to be like, oh, let's get this money out here. But what we find is that many, especially minority-owned businesses, really do just need what are called micro funds. So what we found through the pandemic is that many businesses, unfortunately, were unable to survive based on needing such small amounts, such as $10,000 to $20,000. And so our company organized a conference called the Global Supplier Diversity Conference that we host annually in September every year. And literally what we do in this conference is that we bring together corporations, venture capitalists, angel investors to really help them really understand the needs of women and underrepresented founders. The next thing that we're doing to really round this out is that we are creating a technological platform called I Am Closing the Funding Gap, where we are literally matching those funders to founders. So the founder will put their MVP, their product or their SaaS solution on our platform and then be matched with a potential funder. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a venture capitalist. It could just be someone who wants to do good and give back. And so certainly we know that we have a long way to go because for women-owned businesses, less than 2% of the VC funding is going to female-owned run businesses. And I stated earlier, 0.2% of VC funding is going to African-American female founders. So we know we have this huge opportunity, and it's going to take all of us collectively working together, not just here in the United States, but as part of the global ecosystem to make sure that we're deploying these funds and getting them to some of the most talented founders that I have ever met, because quite frankly, a lot of these founders are not failing because of lack of great ideas or lack of great concepts. They're failing because of lack of access to education, opportunity, strategic partnerships, and capital.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. So, Monica, if I'm sitting out here in the audience and I'm sitting and saying, okay, I've heard all this great information about, you're doing something that's phenomenal of getting money into the hands, getting opportunity into the hands, and getting people to recognize the need. You're working with companies from, dealing with global supplier diversity. Mm-hmm. I'd like for you to give the audience 2 tips that you think would help somebody who says, I think I want some of that money. I think I want to do that. What's a few of the things that they should have together to be able to do that from a VC perspective? I'd like to understand just a little bit of an overview.
Yeah, I would say those top things are going to be first, know your pitch. So sometimes you're going to have 60 seconds to tell about your business. Sometimes you're going to have 60 minutes, but be able to really discuss what is your unique value proposition? Why should I really care about your business? And why should I want to invest? Whether it's from a B2B perspective or business to business, or whether it's from a B2C, business to consumer perspective, but really understand what is that unique value proposition. The next thing that's so critical is to, really make sure that you understand what is your end goal? Because not everyone is trying to, have this, tremendous exit strategy where you're trying to sell the business or you're looking for VC funding. It may just be that you need alternative capital. And so if you are underbanked or under-resourced, there are definitely other resources out there. There are grants, there are alternative ways to capital. But truly, one of the things that I think is so critical is to be able to articulate that story. And finally, one of the things that I see that we really struggle with as women and underrepresented founders is financial acumen. So know your numbers. When people ask you, what was your net profit? What was your revenue? We're not always interested in just the top line number. We want to understand how have you been performing year over year. And certainly COVID has really exacerbated that for a lot of us, but let's make sure that you truly have a firm grasp on that. And if numbers is not your gift, make sure that you outsource it to someone who truly lives and breathes it and enjoys it, so that you can make sure that you're making intelligent decisions and also that you're preparing yourself for not just living payroll cycle to payroll cycle, but really strategically building something long term.
I think that's great advice. And I think that's why your business is doing so well. I think it's important that, the things that you have shared with us and the things we've talked about today, allows anybody to grow and to develop and to make new income and new revenue streams. Yes. So I really appreciate all of your comments and insights as well. And I would like to ask my audience to thank my guests for being here today. Thank you so much, Monica.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you all for joining in for another episode of Strategic Minds Making Money Moves, where we provide those strategies to what? Make that green rain. See you next time.